thank you so very much for joining me again today. This article is from Market Watch. It is by Angie O'Leary. It was first published, on July the 16th. And then it was republished on July the 19th. It was updated. So she updated. Okay. Retirement Weekly. Opinion. It won't end with Bill and Melinda Gates. Get ready for the demise of more marriages. Financial considerations for gray divorce. After steadily rising for decades, overall divorce rates in the U.S. hit a 50-year low in 2019. While marriage advocates are celebrating the decline in broken unions, their joy may be short-lived. Divorce rates are expected to spike again in the aftermath of the pandemic. After spending 24/7 together with little outside social contact, coupled with the financial, emotional, and physical stress of the pandemic, some couples are taking a hard look at their marriages. For certain empty nesters, the pandemic was a preview of what retirement with their spouse might look like, and they don't like what they saw. Recently, several of our financial advisors have reported a noticeable uptick in calls inquiring about the financial implications of divorce. Many of those calls are from clients in their 50s and above. These later in life dissolutions, like the highly publicized Split the Bill by Melinda French Gates, are known as gray divorces, and they are on the rise. Since the 1900s, the divorce rate of adults 50 and older in the U.S. has roughly doubled, according to findings from the Pew Research Center. In fact, for adults 65 and older, the divorce rate has tripled over that same period and is even worse for remarriages. Demographics, social changes, and the pandemic have all contributed to the trend. People are living longer, women are more financially empowered, and the stigma of divorce has lessened. A healthy 65-year-old can expect to live another 20 years. A woman typically lives 5 additional years. Many look ahead and decide this is a long time to spend in an unhappy marriage. However, a later life divorce is complicated and requires careful financial planning. As with the Gates divorce, decades of building wealth and raising a family make it more challenging to divide assets in a mutually agreed upon and equitable manner. For most divorcing couples, hiring an experienced attorney to represent and protect each individual's interests is wise, especially since divorce laws and insurance laws vary from state to state. When thinking about the financial considerations, there are 3 areas to focus on. Tackling the big questions. Absent a prenup, there are several big questions that will surface right away. If a couple can agree on these areas, it will help expedite the matter and save on attorney's fees. If children are in the picture, what are your wishes regarding custody, visitations, child support, health care, and education funding? Do you have an adult children expecting support for weddings or help with the purchase of a first home? How are funds set aside for this type of commitment? Do you earn enough money to adequately support yourself, or should alimony be considered? What and where are all the financial assets and how are they titled? Which asset do you want and which are you willing to let your spouse keep? Make sure you have an asset inventory and you understand the value of each asset. Are there retirement plans for each spouse? Is there enough money to pay any outstanding debt on whatever assets you keep? How do you feel about the family home? How do you feel strongly about living there, or should it be sold or told to your spouse? Are there separate or personal assets of each spouse, including trust funds and inheritances? Are there any separate or personal assets of each spouse, including trust funds and inheritances? How does state law affect the impact of separate or inherited? Are there separate or personal assets of each spouse, including trust funds and inheritance? How does state law affect the impact of separate or inherited assets when determining alimony or the division of property? 2. Define do's and don'ts. Divorce is an emotional, highly charged life transition that often leads to rash and unwise decisions. Here are some definite do's and don'ts when it comes to your finances. Do prepare a financial plan and budget to help guide you until your divorce is final. Do a review monthly bank and financial statement and make copies of you for your attorney. Do review all tax returns that have been filed jointly or separately and make sure all taxes have been paid to date. Do get help from a financial advisor, especially if you do not currently have the skill and energy to do this on your own. Don't make large purchases or create additional debt that might later cause financial hardship. Do not quit your job or move out of the house before consulting your financial advisor and attorney. Don't transfer or give away assets that are jointly owned. Sometimes overlooked financial consideration. In a great divorce, there are often additional financial considerations that may be overlooked. Being aware of these considerations will help you think comprehensively about your settlement. Taxes. Nearly every financial decision you make and every asset you receive becomes with a tax bill. Understanding the tax implications is important, so be sure to consult an accountant or tax advisor to determine what makes the most sense for your situation before divvying up assets. Also remember that alimony is no longer deductible for the spouse paying it. It is not taxable to the person receiving it. Child support payments aren't taxable either. Insurance. Life insurance often plays a key role, especially if there's a financially dependent spouse. Naming your ex-spouse as beneficiary may require as a part of your divorce. As alimony terminates on the death of the payer, life insurance may be used as a tool to guarantee a stream of income if the alimony paying spouse passes. The divorce decree will often require life insurance on the person paying alimony and or child support on the event of their death. Disability and long-term care insurance are also considerations for post-divorce emergencies and should be addressed if appropriate in the divorce settlement. Retirement assets. Good God. Okay. Retirement assets that have accumulated over 25 plus years can represent a substantial part of a couple's wealth. Splitting retirement assets come with some special considerations and often a second step. A qualified domestic relations order or QDRO is typically used to divide certain employer retirement and pension plans. A QDRO recognizes joint material interest in the retirement assets, giving the ex-spouse a share of those assets. Social Security. If you've been in a marriage for longer than 10 years and get divorced, you're generally entitled to half of your spouse's Social Security, providing that the benefit is greater than what you qualify for and that you remain unmarried. What the fuck? For real? You got what? Oh shit. Okay. You must be the age 62 or older if you file prior to full retirement age. You will receive reduced benefits for tapping Social Security before your FRA. What the hell? What? Wow. Okay. I kind of get it. Okay. Keep going. If you qualify for your own Social Security, but the amount is lower, you will get an additional amount up to the 50% spousal benefit. If your ex-spouse is deceased, you are eligible for the same survivor benefit as current spouses, which means you can receive full amount of your ex's benefits. Note that your former spouse doesn't have to be collecting his or her retirement benefits before you can claim ex-spouse benefits. Oh, however, if this is the case, the divorce must be at least 2 years old. Okay. All right. Okay. Employer stock options. If either spouse works for a corporation, there may be employer stock incentives that will require additional analysis before these assets can be divvied up. Valuing stock options is complex as they typically have vesting periods, unique tax considerations, and carry various risks, including market and employment risk. Often, corporate executives will get full access to their options at retirement, which is another point to consider. As the value of the stock or option typically fluctuates over time, it is important to understand the risk, reward, and trade-offs when determining the value. Estate matters. While the divorce is ongoing, your spouse has certain rights. Make sure you meet your legal obligations while exercising as much control over your assets as possible. There are few things you can do prior to the divorce, but you should update your estate plan as soon as legally possible. For example, you will want to update your healthcare proxy, power of attorney, and will, change beneficiaries on your retirement accounts and life insurance. Retitle assets and amend your trust. Estate planning is also necessary before you remarry in order to protect and preserve the assets of your children and grandchildren. Financial implications for women. Women face it's a long case. Good God. But it's important though. I get it. It's important. It's a lot of shit. Okay, this is the end anyway. Okay. Well, what about the implications for men then? I don't see that part. What y'all mean? Oh, so y'all just gonna do us like that? Okay, well maybe it explains it in this part right here. Maybe it just I don't know. Okay, we'll finish. I'm reading this blind, y'all. Financial implications for women. Women face unique financial headwinds. They often earn less than men and start retirement with smaller amounts saved and lower Social Security benefits. So they can be in a particularly precarious position after a divorce. When coupled with later life divorce, the financial outcome can be disastrous, especially for women who are primary caregivers to the children. According to a report from the U.S. Government Accountability Office, women's household income fell by 41% following a divorce or separation after 50, while men had a 23% drop. With women living longer than men, that dip in income can have a serious consequences. With divorce being such an emotionally and financially challenging time with a lot of important decisions to be made, easing the burden with trusted legal and financial advice will help you comprehensive approach to this significant life transition and feel more secure about your future. Hmm. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say okay, well that's silly because it's on a I was like, it's heavily centered on money, but it's from Market Watch, so duh, yeah. But man, uh so this article is basically for people with basically some serious change because most marriages doesn't have all this. I mean, most people today, maybe this is a good thinking point that people that aren't super rich and aren't have a whole lot of things tied up and tangled up, it's just a marriage with a couple of kids or something like that. And that's going to be a whole lot simpler than what all this is. But it did put all different kind of scenarios and reason why this would happen or reasons why that would happen. But as I read it, I felt I had to be rich to read this because that seems like this is what this is mainly targeted to. It seems like it's like for rich people, they got all this extra mess and all this stuff. But at the same time, it lets you know what's going on out here. Like, how are the rich living? Like, how y'all got to, separate? That's a lot of shit, man. When you rich and y'all done did a whole bunch of stuff together and y'all got money and property and so much stuff tied up and tangled up together. And then it's been over 10 years. So it's a whole bunch of shit that's tied up. And then y'all got to sit there and pull all that stuff back apart. Like, it just blows the mind. It really blows the mind about how much stuff you really got to go through. Like, but what about the people that don't have this? Like, and the dude or the lady, like, beating your ass, and you can't. I mean, you ain't got time to, oh, let me go do financial planning before I leave. Oh, he just hit me in the neck. Oh, let me go ahead and try to see if I can call my attorney, but not about me getting my ass whooped right now. We got to talk about this divorce first. Like, oh, I don't know. I mean, it just seems like that's how rich people get divorced, but man, like, that's a whole lot of stuff to consider. Like, I mean, that's a whole lot of stuff. It's a whole lot of stuff to think about. Like, untangling and unweaving. I myself, personally, I have been separated for like officially like out of the fucking house. Will be probably about 2 years and some change. My issue for me when I got divorced, or when I separated, that is not divorced. I'm not divorced yet. But when I got separated, was that I wanted to make sure that he was good financially. Now, uh, my soon-to-be ex, I'm gonna put it like that. Yeah, my soon-to-be ex. Yeah, now he wasn't like physically abusive. It was more mental and financial abuse. And then it was some shit I was doing on the side myself. So, you know, it just seemed like two financially irresponsible people really don't need to be together. And it was just more of other things that was kind of rocking the boat as well. So I decided to just cut it off. It's like, it's not working, you know. It, you know, you don't seem like you know what you're doing, and I wanted a different kind of partner, and I thought I could make that partner out of that lump of skin and bone and brain and muscle, and I thought I could do something, but unfortunately, no, and that's okay. Um, but I did want to make sure that he wasn't destitute. And the other reason why I wanted to make sure that he wasn't, struggling, or making sure that, you know, he at least had something better than what he started with. Because he was going to have my son. And, so I had to make sure that that was at least good to where he can be comfortable with raising another being that he wasn't romantically dealing with. And he's doing all right. I'm doing pretty good. But that meant that he had to get another job. Now, I have worked with this man, I have dealt with this man, and I know that he's a very good worker. Okay, I know that. So, um, when he did actually have the ability to change jobs and get something else, I definitely made sure that I was there, at least with the assist, on making sure that he arrived to his places on time, and he got to, take his test and do this and do that. So he got a job. So now he's making really good money. He's getting great benefits. He everything's just really good. So on that, um, and he wouldn't have gotten that job if it weren't for the people at his old job actually watching him and seeing the quality of work that he put in all by himself. So I would say that it's really good. Because like I said, I've worked with him myself, so I know. So, I definitely wanted to make sure that he was financially good. But that's for somebody that has an okay relationship with their person that they're separating from. But man, could you just imagine if it was not good? Like, so many things could throw that thing off. Like, divorce is a is a weird thing. Well, no, it's not a weird thing. But it's not a weird thing. Sometimes things just don't work out between people. And all we need to understand is things don't always turn out the way you want it to. People don't think the same. People change. Things grow. People continue on with some of their behaviors that they know they should cut out on once they get married. But hey, it's whatever. We're gonna keep it moving. Um, I think that when dealing with, I can remember a few years ago when people was like, "Oh, make sure that you, what does love have to do with it?" Like, I get what you're saying. What does love have to do with marriage? If you didn't understand what the hell I just said. But just marry for money, marry for money, marry for comfort, marry for all this other stuff. Like, that may sound good right now. That may sound okay right now. It might make fucking sense. But if you're not vibing, with that person and y'all constantly butting heads and you don't like this and you don't like that, and just because that person has money doesn't mean that person gonna spend it on you. That don't mean that, whether you married or not. Like, you, what you thinking? Like, what kind of fairy tale shit is this? Like, you gotta, cause that money is gonna only take anything but so far. There has to be some sort of chemistry there. There has to be some sort of love there. And sometimes that shit change up. It's been about 30 minutes. I'm gonna get off here. I done told enough of my business. Thank you so very much for being here. And please like, share, and subscribe. I love you so much. Bye.